All right, so this is going to be fun.
We have been handed official topics.
Yes,
that
by our producer.
Who wants to know how we feel about these topics.
And we did not look at these topics. We have not thought about these topics.
Yep.
We did not know what the topics were until just now.
Yes.
We're going to see if we can discuss having no prior knowledge.
Okay, go ahead and do presentation.
Let's see. Number 1.
Yes.
Mike Tyson. How was he able to repair his image in a time when people have been canceled for much less?
Okay.
Ooh.
I like this one.
That's interesting. Repair his image in a time where people have been canceled for much less. Well, let's start with, do you think he did repair his image?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay, how so?
Well, in his deal is, okay, so you have certain celebrities, certain athletes that do a thing and they are ostracized. Like they are just, they can't participate anymore. They come with such a black cloud that whoever interviews them or whatever they do from then on, they're not known as what they were in a positive light. They will forever be known as the thing in a negative light. Okay. And so he got the opportunity to box again. He got the opportunity to do the media cycles and go on podcasts and go on shows. And it's interesting because you can substitute other people given the even more egregious things that they've done, and they weren't welcomed back in quite so sincerely or quickly. So yeah, you do not think that he repaired?
I do. This is almost a little bit of a phenomenon to me because it is interesting how he was so rooted for someone that had sort of tarnished his reputation in the past to sort of come back and I don't know. Not that he was the underdog in this fight, but he was very much rooted for. And when I think about why that is, one, I think he started to come back in a more positive light by simply being in movies. He was almost kind of a joke for a long time. He was in The Hangover, and even sketch comedy shows were doing things about him. And I think that started this idea of, hey, let's ignore any of the bad stuff he did and let's just start maybe including him on some jokes, which maybe I think started to warm people up to him. And then, yeah, honestly, I think the idea of him fighting Jake Paul in particular, who came off on purpose, I think, as the villain in this fight scenario, I think that actually made people root more for him. If he would have fought like Vander Holyfield again or like anyone else, and it was just two boxers coming together, people might say, oh, this is cool. Let's see Iron Mike fight again. But I think in this scenario, the marketing behind it made it so you want to root for him over this like punk ass who you want to see get annihilated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But even the people who are outside the competitive sphere where boxing really didn't even matter, you had a certain amount of forgiveness that came from them, and they didn't even know Mike. They knew of Mike as an athlete, but they didn't follow Mike as an athlete, and they didn't even see the match between he and Jake Paul. Yeah. And it's almost like culture and society, kind of welcomed him to have a second round.
Yeah.
To use a stupid pun.
Yeah, was that on accident?
Not at all.
No pun intended.
No.
And I think too, unfortunately, this fight also made you sort of, I hate to say this, but you almost had a little pity in your heart for Mike.
I was just going to say it, but I was going to word it way worse than you did.
Yeah, I had a little pity when I saw him for a couple reasons, but that almost softened my heart too, this is almost sad to watch. And all right, so let's really rooted for him.
Let's bottle it. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's. If we wanted to take somebody, we'll take Ted Kaczynski. Well, I guess there's certain things that you can't come back from. So let's go.
There are some deal breakers.
Yeah. So let's go up to and including what Mike Tyson did. Okay. So if can we
even clarify exactly what he did?
Why he's so hated?
Yeah, was he like abusing women or something?
He had lots of bouts, lots of bouts with misuse and of
Like
women in
assault
relationships. He had a bunch of bad financial deals that he had some money issues going along, and then he had the ear bite where he during a match got frustrated,
fought
and
real dirty.
have dirty. So he was basically not able to control impulses, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. And they manifested in ways that were just like, a little slimy, little dirty.
Yeah.
But so if we brought a PR firm in and said, let's take a person that's not Mike Tyson, that it hasn't been forgiven, and we want to dress him up and say, use him as our example, but what could we do to you? Like, you have to be certain things or say certain things in order to be like, people kind of hold their nose who might have had a bad opinion of before, but they're willing to give you another thing to see if you're still that person. Like, he hasn't been in the news for beating on anybody or whatever.
And everything he was in the news for was positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm the PR person, I'm doing a fair job with him to keep him either contained where he's not making the news for bad things, and at the same time, like, you expect a boxer to have impulse control issues and a tendency to violence. So it's almost like when they do it, it's just an extension of what you were willing to pay for when it was under a controlled circumstance. But like, dude, you need some good people around you to stop you from doing that to people and whatever. I think what you mentioned were being the butt of the jokes and being okay with it and not overly fighting it. So it's almost like, and I don't think, like, I know he's probably smart, but he's not smart. And the pity isn't like, oh, this poor guy who's got a pretty significant sob story, came from real hard, beat like lots of obstacles, good storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. If we can use that version of him, that would play well to say, let's skip these 8 years in the middle where you were kind of a wrecking ball on things, and then ignore it, almost like we would be at a funeral. This is a Mike Tyson funeral. Everybody's getting in front of the podium, saying the good things.
Oh my gosh!
He wants to remember it as his legacy of the good parts and scratching up.
That's exactly what this felt like.
For sure.
It's like almost like a goodbye to him, a thanks for the memories kind of thing.
So you take Bob from the casket, we prop him up in a chair, play a round of poker with his buddies, and that's what we did with Mike Tyson.
And we're all going to overlook all the shady stuff, and anytime Bob wronged someone, it's like...
exactly right. We don't want to remember him that way.
He's older and dying, and let's just think of the good stuff. And
Yeah. So, but if you had a smarter person, and I'm not calling Mike Tyson, he would whip my ass. Like, I cannot say someone's dumb. I can allude to the fact that he was not smart, and he wouldn't get that. So, dude,
you're like, I'm just kidding, Iron Mike. I'm just kidding.
But if you took a smart person, you couldn't give into a pity because you knew they knew better. It was nefarious from go, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can't leverage pity on that. You can't take their sob story from before, so they're sort of more immune from bouncing back from that. So the smarter you are and the more you should have known means that I can't let you back into that circle, and you're kind of dead once that goes that way. So let's pick out some people. All right, O.J. Simpson. Mm-hmm. Can O.J. Simpson's identity be redeemed, or is murder in one of those categories that you can't come back from?
Oh, God.
If he did it. Oh, hold on. If he did it.
Is he still alive?
He is.
O.J. Simpson?
I think so.
Did he die? BJ says he's dead. I think he died recently.
Did he really?
When was that? A couple years ago, maybe now? We gotta Google it. I think he died. But I don't think he was at all like a Mike Tyson where people were upset about it.
He died April 10th, 2024.
Last April, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and see, that was very much one of those things where I don't think people were real broken up about it. I think he was very high profile of all the bad, overshadowed anything good. The bad was the last thing he was ever known for. I don't think he was known for anything good after that. And yeah, if he did it, brutal murder of multiple people is probably going to be looked at in a different light than just being scuzzy or assault. And again, like, I think the general public is so particular on what they will be up in arms about. I think the more high profile the person you wronged, then maybe the worse you look. You know, if Mike Tyson wrongs some people that the general public doesn't know, doesn't feel any ties to, they don't think it was that big of a deal, maybe there's not a lot of media coverage on it, then maybe someone can come back. If you wrong someone that is like a political figure that people are just really, really amped about.
Well, and again, that is going through the metrics of what has a better potential to be excused. Like if let's just take an O.J. Simpson that was a female, or of another ethnicity, or of a different, financial strata, or whether or not. Okay, so if you're white, male, lower end of the financial spectrum, not famous and an athlete, you do something, and there's really no reason for the public to let you back into anything. You weren't in any of the categories that would even had a possibility. But if you're a woman with a sob story and lower intelligence and no finances, then the public almost buys into the storyline of whether or not, okay, that person is redeemable. Even if they did the exact same thing for the exact same reason, we would judge it based on those other things. So do you think any of those other things gives you more permission to be forgiven or less? So for instance, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tiger King, did he kill somebody?
No.
He's in jail, right?
He's in jail, but he's accusing someone else of killing somebody. But I think he's in jail for, I don't think it's murder. I thought it was like more business.
It's Googleable.
Tiger King, Joe Exotic. I feel like he went to jail for more like a business crime or something. Violating wildlife laws and attempting to hire hitmen to kill Carol Baskin.
Okay. All right. So there's an angle that's similar. So if you take an O.J. Simpson, right? Mm-hmm. Who didn't do it, but he may have also, hired somebody to take her out. And you have Tiger King. Now, you polled the public and says, hey, both of these people, let's just say OJ's still alive, both of these people, really sorry for what had happened. Can we forgive them and let them start over? Do you think one of those two profiles is more forgivable than the other one? So, yes?
Yes. Well, one, if you believe that they did what they did, then brutally murdering two people is worse than a wildlife violation and maybe the attempt to hire someone to murder. However, I think the biggest factor is marketing. Marketing. How many people followed Tiger King and just were all about the show? They found it hilarious. There were Carol Baskin memes everywhere. It was on TV, like there was sketch comedy about it. It was just this big thing during COVID when people had nothing else to do but follow this ridiculous drama, and they ate it up and loved it and found it hilarious. O.J. Simpson was more real, I guess, was more brutal, was more horrific. No positive marketing there whatsoever, whereas there was positive marketing around Tiger King, I think.
All right, so I think that O.J. Simpson could have been brought back, and I do not think Tiger King has any chance whatsoever to come back into life.
Really?
I do. Because on my checklist, the things that really do matter, not going to be able to check it for the Tiger King. Even if we take the similar, one was more brutal and you would think the brutal one wouldn't come back easier. I think he could be marketing because he had the other ones that you could check off and say, all right, was a famous athlete, was known for something else that was respected and, does have charisma and personality, had a lot of money, had a lot of contacts. Like he has all of the things that I think that I could bring him back. I think Tiger King is like, it will be a forever joke, and that will be how he will be remembered for all time.
Oh, yeah, which is why I think he can come back. as that joke. I mean, he's such a character, and they made such a spectacle of that whole situation that I think the general public would be dumb enough and silly enough to be like, whoa, Joe Exotic,
we're using the Mike Tyson thing, though, where he came back and it was a new life. It wasn't the joke from before. It wasn't the ear bite. It wasn't the domestic violence. It wasn't any of that. I'm saying, could I bring O.J. Simpson back and get him to be a participant again in some of the new life things, like going on television and being a guest and not talking about his history, being famous again for something and not have to pay the consequences of his previous actions. Tiger King is stuck in that forever. There's going to be no other things other than that.
Yeah, because I think part of the whole coming back is almost you have to have this image of turning over a new leaf. And you could have maybe done that with O.J. Simpson. But if Joe Exotic turns over a new leaf and becomes totally different, then he's done. He was only popular because of the ridiculousness. So if he's like, I'm not going to be ridiculous anymore, I'm going to be a straight shooter, people are like, oh, boring. That's all you were.
Okay, you know? So as long as if you're at home keeping score of the reasons why you will forgive someone are very arbitrary in nature, depending on, it's not single faceted. It's not the value that you'll play in the future. It's all encompassing. And there are certain people that are collecting attributes that can be forgiven easier than other people who have not collected those same attributes.
And I think a big part of it too is, what were you to people before you did the bad thing? Were you popular enough that you could come back? Like, for example, Kathy Griffin. Like, she was canceled years ago for the Trump thing. You remember that story? And really has not made her way back. Right. Like, she was canceled for good. Mm-hmm. But when I think about it, I'm like, but what did people get out of Kathy Griffith before?
Yes.
It wasn't somebody that they truly, really loved and enjoyed seeing before. So to say, now you ticked me off.
Okay, well, here's the thing. They pierced the veil of what comedy should be. And I know of a couple of comedians that did this. So we're able to look at a comedian, and they're able to toe the lines of what's acceptable to, lampoon, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're a comedian and you say a bunch of racist jokes, but I know you're doing it for the shock value, you're not really racist, then we sort of have an agreement that you're doing it just to shock me, and that's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. But if you're, what's the Kramer guy?
I can't think of his real name.
So he gets on stage and he pierced the veil by going beyond. Now it's believable that you are actually the racist with the jokes that you're telling, and you've pierced it. Now you are not a comedian because everything you do is now the person that you exposed yourself to be, where you were already tiptoeing up to that.
Well, yes. And I think it's ridiculous when a comedian gets canceled, because yes, especially if they are known, like Tony Hinchcliffe, even Matt Rife a little bit, if they are known to be someone that pushes buttons and then you cancel them for one, that's ridiculous. You knew what they were there for and you put them there. The only small difference I could see with Kramer, in his own description of that instance, I don't think that was meant to be a joke. He really did lose his temper. And that was his true.
But it's what exposed when he lost his temper. So here, if I'm on stage and I am playing Brutus, right, and I'm pretending to stab someone, everybody in the audience knows I'm not a stabby person, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm so not a murderer.
But if I went beyond that and the audience is like, oh no, dude, he is really a murderer, and therefore you can't put him in a situation where he has a knife because he's not. He is the thing that he was pretending to be for my amusement, but now he really is that. That's sort of like going beyond. And now if you tell a racist joke, I say that you're really not racist. You did it to offend me. Or you make fun of somebody, aren't really feel that way. It was the joke. But you go beyond that. Now it's a different game. It was a good analogy for the Brutus thing because. Yeah.
Brutus.
Et tu, Brute. I just took Hamlet and
You're so cultured.
I know. Maybe too much for this topic.